Hello again. My name is Duarte. I'm the Director of Policy for MADRE. We're very excited to have you all here today for this discussion. I want to start off with some thank yous. First of all, thanks to you all for being here. We're going to be hearing our Indigenous feminist partners speaking about climate justice. I want to acknowledge that the speakers you're about to hear from are part of an international delegation that's been co-sponsored by MADRE and the Rosa Luxemburg Stiftung. So thank you very much to RLS for your support and co-sponsorship. Fun fact, this is actually the 10th year that MADRE and RLS have been co-sponsoring delegations of Indigenous women leaders to the Permanent Forum. So it's sort of an anniversary for us. And special thank you to our wonderful speakers here for the expertise and perspectives they're about to share. And I want to just go quickly down the line and briefly introduce them. We'll have more of an opportunity as we get into the event to learn more about them. But first of all, immediately to my left here, we have Fatima Ahmed of CEDAW for Women in Development in Sudan. Next, we have Yasso Kanti Bhattachan of the National Indigenous Women's Forum in Nepal. Next, we have Dialys Ehrman of AMICAM in Panama. And at the end of the line, we have Juan of the San Javier Co-op Forum, and formerly with the Indian Treaty Council based in the US Southwest. And so also thank you to our interpreters who are here to help us make this space more language accessible. I also want to acknowledge, as we're gathered here for the Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, that we are all standing at this moment on the indigenous land of the Mansi Lenape, and thank you once again to Yasso for grounding us in this moment and in this place as we get started. So what is our purpose here today, as we're gathered here for this event that we call Reflections on Climate Justice from Indigenous Feminist Peacebuilders Around the World? Our focus today is on the action that feminist peacebuilders and climate defenders worldwide, and particularly from rural and indigenous communities, the action that they're taking to confront a multiplicity of intersecting threats. Climate injustice, environmental exploitation, attacks on land and sovereignty, really threats to all living things and to our planet. And so today we're going to be engaging in a conversation, and we hope that you all will have a chance to and be interested to participate in this conversation with us about what climate justice looks like in action, what are some of the challenges to achieving climate justice, and how can we activate our transnational solidarity? I think it's fitting that as we're sitting here across from the United Nations, we can also use this opportunity to talk about international tools and spaces for advancing climate justice, including the recent CEDAW General Recommendation No. 39, which affirms the rights of Indigenous women and girls. And I know that at least one of our speakers is interested to talk more about that. So we're very interested to hear from our delegation members as they share that experience, and in a moment I'll turn to them and ask an initial question to get the conversation started. I invite all of you to be thinking about what kinds of questions you would like to pose to the panelists, because we will reserve time after their discussion for you all to participate here as well. So, are we ready? So we're all working towards climate justice in a way that is guided by the leadership of rural and indigenous women. And as I turn to each of you, and we'll just go down the line taking turns, please introduce yourself, your work, your community, as you share your answer to our first question, which is, what is a key strategy or issue that you are leading on that we can all support? First, I'll turn to Fatima for her thoughts. Fatima is the founder of CEDAW for Women in Development, an organization that has developed an agricultural program for Sudanese women farmers, recognizing the crucial role that women play as agents of change in improving food security and in building climate resilience. So Fatima, please go ahead.
Good afternoon. Thank you so much, Diana. First, I would like to thank MADRE and IRLS for supporting us to come here and to raise our voice at the international level at the forum on behalf of our communities and the women and girls on the ground. My name is Fatima Ahmed. I'm the president of a grassroots women organization called CEDAW for Women Development. It's working in Sudan, different parts of Sudan, but concentrating on eastern part of Sudan, which is the one of the situation in eastern part of Sudan is the worst in Sudan in terms of poverty, in terms of high literacy rate, in terms of food insecurity. So this is our concern. We have different programs, but our program for women farmers established in 2007, and really the main supporter at that time is MADRE. And since that time we work with MADRE. We started little number of women, but by years we're expanding. And it's a program being recognized at the international level. Actually, we won 3 international awards. One is the UNPFII Equator Prize. Also, we won UNFCCC award during COP25 in Germany. And actually, one of those women farmers from the village went with me to represent the works of their own work and what they are doing on the grounds to tackle the different aspects of climate change, and because they are facing that and they hit hard on the ground because those women they depend on producing for their families and to have some income to support their families in all aspects of life, education, health. So by tens of years ago, they start having very low production and low productivity, and they didn't know what is going on until we make this intervention, and this is strategy first to raise their awareness that there is something called climate change which they are living it, and that has to be first of all they have to know about that and to work together with grassroots organization and to work at all levels. I mean, for us, our responsibility to raise their voice at the regional and the international level, which has been possible by the support of international organizations like MADRE and RFS. So the strategy is to first raise their awareness, to train them and build their capacity of how they can manage this situation, because many of them sometimes they lose the whole season and they don't have this small supply of food for their families. And even if they have 1 year, the season is good, they don't know how they can make a storage or they can get used of that. So we work in first we started by and actually they rely for years on their own seeds, with seeds being taken from their production and saved for next year. And this is really one of the big problems and one of the issues I'm trying also to raise the awareness at all levels. Yes, we are, as local communities, as indigenous communities, we want to save and preserve our seeds and inherited knowledge and all that. But by this situation of climate change, we have to think out of the box. We have to find ways of how can we improve this seed. This is why I recommend that it has to be investment in research at the local level, because there is scientists from local communities, they can manage to, and this is what we are doing with now with Jocelyn, to use varieties which are like short season, which are drought resistant. So this kind of things is not really well taken. We have to work more, because I work with actually my background is agriculture. I'm a agronomist. So my colleagues also work at the Agricultural Research Corporations. We need more funds to do that. These are the strategies and actually to work with at all levels, so we can make the voice of those communities heard and to find solution. And especially now there is money and many different funds, adaptation funds, green funds, and now this loss and damage fund, but it's not accessible. So how can we all together we can find ways so we can have these funds available and these resources available for those communities and for the women and girls on the ground so they can manage and take their life for. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Fatima, for that. I just want to highlight one point that Fatima made when you're talking about the expertise that women farmers possess, that women at the grassroots level possess. You know, we can be thinking about in terms of our solidarity action, how can we be building bridges? How can we support bridges that bring that bio expertise into various spaces? And Fatima made at least two there, you know, international policy spaces, but also research generation, knowledge generation at the local and international level. So that's, I think, you know, two strategies that we can build on that. Next up, we're going to turn to Yasso. I want to say a word to introduce her. Yasso Bhattachan has advocated for years for Indigenous women's rights and climate justice in Nepal and globally as a founding member and the vice chair of the National Indigenous Women's Forum, an organization that works with Indigenous women to empower them and advocate for the elimination of social, political, cultural, religious, and linguistic discrimination. Yasso, please go ahead.
Thank you, Diana. Actually, National Indigenous Women Forum was established in 1998, and we were working, our approach was bottom-up, not top-down. So we started from the endangered indigenous women and girls, and also from highly marginalized indigenous people in Nepal. So basically, in Nepal, our population, total population is 36% of the total population, indigenous people's population. And we are in majority, but we are in minority because there is no access to the representation and participation in the decision making. And we are the one, indigenous people, every minute, every second, every hour, every day, we are struggling with the crisis of climate change. So we have been, and we have been working in the very remote area in Nepal. We have 3 ecological regions, hill, mountain, and plain areas. So we have basically worked with the endangered indigenous people in Nepal. So, and while we are working in the area, we work with them, awareness, training, and capacity building, institutional capacity, and also make them aware about the national and international law, such as Convention on Biodiversity, UNFCCC, UNPFII, and ILO 169. We have been doing that. And also the main strategy we are using is community-based approach, and also the MADRE has been helping us since 2015 during the earthquake, and also during the flood and COVID, and we have been doing work on climate justice, and also preventing and helping our people to about the agricultural climate justice program in Nepal, and we have worked in the 7 provinces with almost 27 indigenous peoples in Nepal. So, and we have been doing, actually we are interconnected and interdependent with the Mother Nature, because still we have endangered indigenous people who are still the nomadic, living nomadic people in Nepal, and also indigenous women and girls. We are using the strategy to our government, and because we are not, never Nepal was colonized, but we were internally colonized. So by the dominant group. So the women and girls need to be put in center in every climate justice program, because we have been facing poverty and also food insecurity and also the flood, and also a lot of aggressive development has caused the displacement of indigenous people in their own ancestral homeland with the expansion of the road, and also due to the development of aggression like hydropower, and also by the landslide, by the natural calamities, which is caused by the climate change. Indigenous peoples have little minimal contribution to climate change, but we are the victim, most impacted. Mountains are melting, glaciers are melting, and the mountain lakes have been bursting in Nepal. Last year, the first avalanches in our ancestral homeland, it wiped out all yak in our village. People did not die, but it is a very scary part of climate change which we have been facing. The agriculture is not good way it's grown in the village. No? So we depend on buckwheat, yak, and mountain sheep, mountain goat, and now the breeding of them also is decreasing. And the mountain herb we don't find now in the and in the Himalaya region. And also before we even used to get flies, mosquito, or diseases like jaundice, cholera, or typhoid. Now it has reached to the mountain region. So you can see how dangerous the situation has created for us to survive in the mountain region. And due to the drought in the mountain region, mountain refugee has been growing. Mountain refugee, now they are migrated in the hill region and plain region. So a lot of things are happening, and unusual rain in the mountain region, because in the mountain region houses are built by the mud, because before it never used to rain that much. But if it rains too much, then house will be destroyed. The house is a place where we have a spiritual zone for shelter, everything we have in the house, in the land and territory. If government move us to the other land, we don't get same vegetation, same climate, or same growing our agriculture. So how we can say our customary law practices and our customary institution and our right to self-determination, how it has been affected. So it is really a dangerous situation for us, not only in the mountain region, but due to the name of community forest, protected areas, wildlife conservation, hunting ground. Now the forests are sinking. We don't have access to the forest. We don't have control to the forest because the government have their own policy to use. So they cannot go to the forest to gather the herbs. They cannot go there to pick up the vegetable which they want. They cannot use the color of their clothes, which is very environmentally. It helps us to, from the immunity power, it helps us to, from the certain disease, when you wear the color clothes from the forest, the herb. So now time is up. So I'm really lot of things to say. Thank you. I will talk.
Muy buenas tardes.
Hello. I just wanted to take a moment to introduce Dialys here. And to say, next up we're going to hear from her. She's a lawyer and an activist for Indigenous issues, especially for Indigenous women. She's written several books and articles on Indigenous law and the human rights of Indigenous women. And she is the founder of the National Union of Women of the Kuna people and of the Alliance of Indigenous Women of Central America and Mexico. Thank you very much, Dialys. Please go ahead.
Muy buenas tardes. Saludos a la mesa principal y a cada uno de ustedes que nos acompañan esta tarde. Mi nombre es Dialys Ehrman, vengo del pueblo Kuna, y agradecerles a MADRE y a Rosa Luxemburg por permitirnos nuestra participación en la delegación que está en este foro permanente y en este evento paralelo. Estamos aquí, como decía, a nombre de la Unión Nacional de Mujeres Cunas, organización nacional y local en la República de Panamá, en Pueblo Cuna, y también en el proceso organizativo mesoamericano de la Alianza de Mujeres Indígenas de Centroamérica y México americano. Dos procesos, dos niveles de trabajo en el contexto nacional y en el contexto regional. Importante destacar en la tarde de hoy que si bien cada uno de ustedes sabe que las mujeres indígenas están trabajando, tienen todo un proceso organizativo local, nacional e internacional, que desde hace muchos años, desde hace 28 años, desde hace 19 años como la Alianza de Mujeres Indígenas Americanas, y como hace 31 años la Unión de Mujeres Cunas, llevan a cabo trabajos y procesos organizativos donde, si bien es cierto, se han abordado diferentes temas como mujeres indígenas, desde sus derechos, desde hacer sentir su voz, desde el proceso de Beijing, en donde por primera vez las mujeres empiezan a tener voz en el contexto local nacional, porque en todos los procesos, mucho antes de 28 años, pues participaban mujeres no indígenas, pero hace 28 años empezaron a tener un proceso organizativo mucho más fuerte y hace sentirse en el contexto local, nacional, regional e internacional y mundial. Pero sin embargo, en la tarde de hoy, como estamos escuchando, hay un tema muy específico, que es el tema de la justicia climática, porque precisamente en el desarrollo, en ese proceso planetario del mundo, de los problemas sociales, hoy día nos encontramos ante un tema que es parte también de esa vivencia, no solamente de los pueblos indígenas, sino de todo el planeta. Un tema donde hemos venido escuchando COP26, cambios climáticos, donde los estados, los gobiernos, hace el año 2022 estuvieron en Egipto abordando estos temas, donde la sociedad civil, donde los pueblos indígenas han formado parte también de estos temas, y donde hace poco estuvieron aquí en Naciones Unidas precisamente también una conferencia sobre el agua, donde hubo una precumbre de pueblos indígenas, donde hubo un panel de mujeres indígenas también, donde hicieron sentir su voz, donde dieron sus opiniones, donde dieron sus aportes. Y en ese sentido, nosotras, como mujeres indígenas, también queremos compartir con ustedes que precisamente en este tema específico de la justicia climática, claro, por supuesto que sí tenemos estrategias en el marco de ese trabajo que estamos llevando a cabo en el contexto local, nacional e internacional. Podemos compartir con ustedes algunos ejemplos. Por ejemplo, el pueblo Cuna, nosotros somos una comarca indígena reconocida por una ley. En Panamá existen 7 pueblos indígenas. Nosotros vivimos rodeados de mar. Este puede ser la isla y estamos rodeados de mar. Son 365 comunidades, islas, pero habitadas y pobladas con autoridades y gobiernos locales son 49 comunidades. Y de esas 49 comunidades, ya estamos sintiendo los efectos del cambio y de esas amenazas climáticas porque hay el nivel del mar. Recuerdo que cuando era pequeña yo podía tirarme al agua mirando de arriba, pero ahora ya el agua estamos a la par. Entonces mire cómo ha ido amenazando, cómo esos desastres naturales que sabemos que el mismo no solamente es producto de la naturaleza, sino también de la mano del hombre. Entonces las mujeres estamos contribuyendo a esas estrategias. ¿Cómo? Porque por un lado nos están afectando nuestros ríos y por otro lado nuestras propias comunidades. Entonces estamos trabajando a 2 niveles locales. Uno, ante las amenazas a nuestra seguridad alimentaria, estamos trabajando en los huertos comunitarios, en los huertos familiares, por un lado con las mujeres, donde se involucran mayoras, adolescentes, juventud. 3 actoras. Y por otro lado también está a nivel del traslado del ordenamiento territorial, cómo frente a esa amenaza climática del movimiento futuro de las islas, la mujer está teniendo un rol en las asambleas locales para ver cómo nos trasladamos, no fuera de nuestras comarcas, sino que estamos buscando el territorio adecuado para ese traslado, pero estamos en ese proceso. Pero lo importante es que en esas estrategias las mujeres indígenas en la comarca Cunayala están jugando un rol muy importante porque tienen a nivel local su voz es escuchada. Entonces, hasta ahí porque no tenemos más minutos, quedamos hasta ahí. Muchas gracias.
Thank you very much, Dialys. I want to just make a quick reflection about something that both Dialys and Yasso were just talking about, which is about different sort of structures and political processes that exist at the local, national, or international level. And when, as you all are, you're organizing with communities that are most immediately impacted by the crisis, what are the ways that you can connect their demands and their priorities to those frameworks that have been created? And I want to highlight also the example that Dialys was just sharing about this question of when communities are going to be forced to relocate because of climate crisis. How can that be done in ways that are respecting of human rights? And maybe in the conversation we can come back to some of the experiences that Dialys and others are having in Panama and other places to make it democratic, to make it rights-based, to make it rooted in the principles of free, prior, and informed consent. I think that's one strategy we can come back to in the conversation. And last but not least, we will hear from Amy Juan. She is a former culture teacher, co-founder of the Bhattachan Rights Network, and in 2018 began working with the Indigenous Peoples Human Rights Organization, the International Indian Treaty Council, and currently serves as the Arizona Tribal and Community Liaison with a strong focus on border issues, rights, seed and food sovereignty, and climate change adaptation. Amy, please go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dialys Ehrman, Jurisdiction, non-affiliation. I judge in all the Tuesday from Mountain with Sylvester Juan, and the Dr. Yasso, Tuesday, Mary, Melissa, Miles, but Danny Wamba, and you were to Barbara Tuesday, Mary Elizabeth McGilbert, Lawrence McGilbert, in your welcome on Elijah Tristan Ross, and your welcome on New England and author J.J. Thomas Dominic. So good afternoon, everyone. I just introduced myself in my language. I'm from the Tohono Nation, which is located in Southwest Arizona. We are, just to give people an idea of who we are, because not a lot of people know who we are, is that we are the second largest land-based tribe in the United States after the Navajo Nation. We are located about 2 hours south of Phoenix, Arizona, and the closest city to us is Tucson, Arizona. And that's where I currently reside. Our tribe, our land base is about 2.8 million acres. It's about the size of the state of Connecticut. And we share 75 miles of international border with the U.S. and Mexico. And our lands are divided in half by the colonial border, U.S.-Mexico border. I just introduced my parents, my grandparents, both on my mom's side and my dad's side, my siblings, my clan. I come from the Buzzard clan, and my autumn name, my original name is Thomas Dominic, which means Milky Way light, and that was given to me by my grandma. So just that's my intro. And I do a lot. I grew up on the Tohono Nation. Like I said, it's a pretty rural area. I always joke that, nobody wanted to colonize the desert, so we were pretty much left alone. Where we are is where we've pretty much always been, which has been good for us in terms of, keeping our culture, our stories, our songs, our practices, our relationship with the land is still very strong because we are, when we look around us, we're able to see exactly what we're singing about in our stories and we're able to relate. And so that's really important to me. My work in terms of how I got here is really the foundation is in youth empowerment. Growing up with my grandmas, they were very adamant that community involvement was at the core of our daily lives. My grandma, she would always say, if you take care of the community, they'll take care of you. So that always stuck with me. So community involvement, working with young people. I'm a former culture teacher, language teacher, and out of that also came the work with our traditional foods, traditional food revitalization, basically making traditional food and working hard cool again with our young people, teaching them how to be outside and that it's okay to be outside and get dirty and work hard, and just empowering them that way through food, learning how to grow foods. And that grew into also utilizing food in different ways to combat the militarization that's happening in my community. Because we share 75 miles of international border, we see a lot of the border issues. You know, they're hit very close to home in terms of migration, human rights in general when it comes to water, drug trade, and how that has affected our community, and also just militarization overall. When I was growing up, the border was a cattle guard and a barbed wire fence. Now it's a whole wall with Border Patrol, Department of Homeland Security, surveillance technology, and all of that. That has morphed into work with human rights overall, Indigenous people's human rights, and getting involved on the international level with the International Indian Treaty Council, which has allowed me to do a lot of traveling and learning and expanding my own knowledge of how all of these issues are connected. I currently work at the San Javier Co-op Farm, which is a farm that exists near Tucson, Arizona. That farm that area has been farmed for thousands of years. The farm itself was established in 1979, but also it has interesting roots. It's not just a farm. The people in that community were affected by the Dawes Act by the U.S. government, so taking communal land, turning that into individual plots of land, and how the community took that back and reclaimed that was to create this co-op farm. And also related to that was doing that because we were combating the city of Tucson, depleting our water and fighting for water rights for our ability to be able to survive. And so it's a big responsibility, not just because it's a farm and we try to grow food, because it's also very political. And in Arizona, there's a lot of drought, water rights, people's capacity and access to water is changing, and it will continue to change. So that's an interesting part of the job. And so I'll just end there because I think we're going to go deeper into these questions here. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy. This first round that we've gone through is reminding me of why we love the Permanent Forum and why we love the opportunity to come together in this way. I connected a moment ago what Yasso and Dialys were talking about. Now I want to connect Amy and Fatima over here talking about farming, that fundamental role of providing for something that is basic and needed for human survival, but also farming as a space of political activation and mobilization. I think that that's something that both of your experiences really demonstrate to us, and maybe something we can learn from and discuss more. I do want to transition to our next question, which is about challenges and how we navigate them in the work. So what are some of the challenges that rural and indigenous climate activists are facing, and also what are some of the main strategies that you and your colleagues have developed to tackle these challenges? So Fatima, I'll pass to you first.
Okay, thank you. Definitely, challenges are always there for whatever advocacy work we are doing, and for the climate justice is real challenges that is not accepted actually by different stakeholders, if you can say the government. Because when we started, if we can talk about with the rural women for the land. Those too much investors who grab their the land and practice agriculture without any caring for the communities, like they're using too much pesticides. And also the mining, the investors for mining all over Sudan now. So when you talk about this, you are faced with actually threat from the government authorities or even from the private sectors also, because they want just to get use of these lands in terms of mining, in terms of agriculture, cutting trees. Actually, I start advocacy since I was at the university for this climate justice, because we saw that those big investors or private sectors or people from the government who have influence, they gave them thousands of hectares of land and they, for the forest to cut it and to plant it with this crops, which is actually I'm from number one agriculture area in Sudan, state called Dailys, is with bordering Ethiopia, and it is responsible for producing 75% of the stable food of Sudan people, which is sorghum. And besides that, there is cash crops like sesame, groundnuts, all this grown in this area. But so it is attractive to those investors and private sectors to come and own this big land at the expense of the indigenous and at the expense of the rural people who have very little, and this is actually their land. So it is always a threat from the government side and from private sectors and investors. Also regarding the cutting trees, and I mentioned something about also our state always welcoming refugees from Ethiopia, and when these refugees come, the communities are welcoming and everything, but still it comes at the expense of those communities, because they took their land to build these camps, and they don't have any means for I mentioned that in one of the discussion, means of energy. Still, so those refugees have to cut trees around to get a charcoal. Even UNHCR, and this is one of the advocacy I have done last couple of months. Those are hundreds of thousands of refugees. So the main energy is charcoal. And charcoal comes from cutting trees around in the same place. So with the strategy is to work together and in solidarity with those women on the ground, on all civil society activists who are advocating for climate justice and environment, and to raise our voice at all levels. But still it is a big problem in terms of our communities are facing with all kinds of abuse and the struggle for survival. Even the water also, as I mentioned, there is a big competition for the water, and these areas also don't have continuous source of water, because they depend on the rain, because and the agriculture in this area actually is rain-fed agriculture. So big challenges, but the strategies is to work together, to raise our voice, to work at different levels, and this is one of the strategies, to come and share what is going on the ground and try to get support at the international level with all women activists for climate justice. Thank you.
I just want to note that Fatima is sharing some, inspiring examples of how Sudanese people like herself are trying to push back on the powers that be that would, abuse the land, abuse people. And this is a moment where I know that people are following in the news what is happening in Sudan, a very extreme example of people being being targeted with violence and unaccountable leaders who are taking advantage of people. So just wanted to offer, Fatima, I know I speak for all of us, and offering our solidarity in this moment, and also our inspiration in all in following how Sudanese people have been standing up for democracy now and in years past. So thank you very much, Fatima.
Actually, we indigenous women, girls, and indigenous people in Nepal, we are facing ideological challenges such as racism, and also about the colonization, internal colonization, and patriarchy, which has caused genocide to indigenous people in Nepal, losing language, culture, skills, traditions, and all our land territories and all. So and also the plan and policy, even the constitution of Nepal puts women as a whole in one basket, as a homogeneous group, not as a heterogeneous group. We have always lobby and advocacy with the government for we are not legal entity in the 2015 constitution. So we have been lobbying with that for the long time. And also because of the government, private companies and agencies have done a lot of due to the hydropower and due to the fossil industries, it has affected their health, especially in indigenous women. And due to the labor intensive and time consuming work for the women in the village, because it is taking their time to get water because of the drought, everything. But we have indigenous peoples, women and girls have their own way of coping with the climate change. We have our own knowledge of, just like in mountain area, during summer or winter, what we do is that we dig the ground and we put all the vegetables seed under the ground and save for the next generation. And also we are losing the language mother tongue is very important, right to information is very important, because the language we speak is Khas-Nepali language, which is the colonizer language in Nepal. So there are, and also we save the forest by, just like when child is born, we call the umbilical cord and put in the bamboo, and that tree we hang on the tree, and that high tree is sacred, so nobody can cut the tree. So that way also we are saving the forest, and also the endangered indigenous people who live in the forest, or those who settle near the forest, they save the roots and tubers in the jungle for the next year for the plantation. So we have a lot of, and also we have a lot of our ways of saving Mother Nature. So and the most important thing is that the challenge, how we cope is that the strategy we use, because of violation of the human right and collective right, the Nepal government has ratified CEDAW in 1991, and now in 2022, October 31st, they have adopted the CEDAW General Recommendation on Indigenous Women and Girls. So, and United Nations Declaration on Rights of Indigenous People, and also Convention ILO 169. And so the government, we are lobbying and advocacy and using the strategy for the government through protests or through memorandum that government should implement meaningful implementation of these international laws and policy. So, and also we are struggling, and we have used the international instrument to the development partners like ADB, World Bank, is destroying our ancestral homeland, and now we are refugee and bonded labor in our own ancestral homeland. So it has affected our customary knowledge, self-governance, and way of life. So 5% indigenous people in the world save 80% of all biodiversity. So how is our life very important to save Mother Earth? So actually we are getting angry because of the injustice, inequality, oppression, suppression, discrimination in the society. But we still hope that with the solidarity with all of us working together, networking, we could achieve with the support of everyone. I think we will achieve. And if there is no justice to indigenous peoples, women and girls, there won't be any justice. So we need to use the strong strategy to cope with that.
En cuanto a la segunda pregunta sobre cuáles son los desafíos que las mujeres indígenas defensoras del medio ambiente enfrentan y cuáles podrían ser las estrategias que hemos implementado. Por supuesto que los desafíos son muchísimos, igual que los retos, y podría compartirles un poco que en el contexto nacional, frente a las amenazas, frente a toda esa problemática que estamos viviendo en el tema que nos ocupa en la tarde de hoy, que son los cambios climáticos, y que sabemos, pues, como señalaba, de dónde vienen no solamente de la naturaleza, sino de la mano del hombre, y cómo hemos estado llevando a cabo nuestros trabajos comunitarios en el contexto nacional y en el contexto internacional. Y precisamente uno de los desafíos y retos es que ese trabajo se está multiplicando a un tanto, a pesar de ser difícil de involucrar más mujeres indígenas en ese proceso organizativo local, ¿no? Es muy importante para nosotros, para nuestra organización. Por otro lado, es otro reto también en el cual se está trabajando y que no es fácil, es precisamente ante esas autoridades locales que tenemos en el marco de nuestro autogobierno propio, un sistema patriarcal, involucrar a nuestras autoridades en esta lucha, sensibilizar a nuestras propias autoridades indígenas para que sean nuestros aliados, ¿no? Tanto a nivel local como a nivel comarcal, para que sean nuestros aliados, ¿no? Y podamos trabajar juntos. Y creo que es muy interesante esto cuando las mujeres tienen el apoyo de sus autoridades locales en esos trabajos, y eso ha sido un desafío, y no solamente en el tema de la justicia climática, sino frente a otros temas que a veces, pues, las autoridades no quieren y vuelvan su mirada hacia otro lado. Sin embargo, las mujeres están luchando, y eso para nosotros, dentro de nuestras comunidades, dentro de nuestro autogobierno, dentro de nuestra gobernanza, es muy importante, porque no solamente hay que verlo frente al Estado Nacional y el mundo occidental, también hay que ver nuestro trabajo frente a nuestra situación interna propia, frente a nuestras autoridades, frente a nosotros mismos, a ese rol que jugamos con nuestras propias particularidades, con nuestro sistema de justicia, salud, economía que tenemos. Y la comarca Cunayala tiene su propio sistema de justicia, es un sistema autónomo, creado por ley, y que aún así no es fácil a la mujer indígena estar en la toma de decisiones, pero estamos luchando para que haya mujeres más sabias, para que haya mujeres más cásicas como lo tiene el pueblo noble. Entonces, habría que ver esos desafíos frente al Estado Nacional, al mundo occidental y a los propios desafíos internos. Eso es muy importante. El otro desafío es, frente a ese tema, y otro mucho, es precisamente el tema del acceso a la justicia, que también estamos viendo, y cuando hablamos del acceso a la justicia también hay que verlo desde nuestro propio sistema interno propio y a la justicia ordinaria. Entonces, también tenemos ese rol y ese trabajo que llevar a cabo en el futuro para sensibilizar también a nuestras propias autoridades internas y también a los que operan justicia en el mundo occidental, porque las mujeres indígenas, los pueblos indígenas, cuando somos víctimas de algunas situaciones, no solamente estamos en las comunidades, estamos en los cascos urbanos, estamos, y eso no solamente en Panamá, sino en el mundo, y cuando se acude a la justicia, si ese juzgador no tiene esa sensibilidad, pues mal va a poder llevar a cabo una justicia eficaz, ¿verdad? En el marco de esa sensibilización de que no carece. Entonces, hay un desafío frente al tema de la justicia también. Y finalmente, en el contexto regional, por supuesto, que también tenemos un trabajo colectivo articulado, que en ese contexto también hacemos nuestra demanda, y en ese tema también nos estamos involucrando y trabajando para sensibilizar también a nuestras autoridades de los países, y también para aprender más y que las mujeres se empoderen más y conozcan de ese tema, porque no es fácil hablar de la justicia climática porque involucra muchos otros subtemas. Entonces, estamos a esos niveles también frente a los desafíos. Así que quería compartir un poquito también con respecto a estos desafíos que tenemos tanto nacional y internacional.
This might sound funny, but I feel like one of the challenges for Indigenous peoples or Native peoples here in the United States is the romanticization of Native peoples still. There's very little updated education about Native peoples and Native peoples issues here in the United States. And if it is, I think particularly if we look at these past gatherings of Native peoples, in particular Standing Rock, it was met with a lot of militarization. And that comes from a fear, a very deep-rooted fear of Native people here in the U.S. because of the history of how the U.S. was stolen from Indigenous peoples and the genocide of Indigenous peoples here in the United States. And that seems to still be a problem. You know, the education system in the U.S. Does not educate young people on Indigenous peoples or tribes or issues in a way that it should be. And that's a whole other topic, but I think that it's also it is a root of some of the issues that we continue to see today, because it's very hard to build solidarity and for people to understand that what we're fighting for is for everyone. We're not just fighting for ourselves, we're fighting for what people call the United States of America, but what we know as, what have you in our languages, and that we want to protect these areas, we want to protect the water, we want to protect the land so that we can be healthy. But I think that deep-rooted fear is still there and gets in the way a lot of times. Some of the other challenges that we face is also the extraction. These are some things that I see in my own work is the extraction of Native people's knowledge, especially in the work that I do around food, and I'm just going to focus on that for a bit here. My tribe has a bean called tepri beans, or gao. It's a really small bean, really resilient, powerful bean that we're seeing a lot of interest in because of its ability to grow in very little water. And so there's a lot of universities, there's a lot of scientists who are really interested in this bean. And it's actually going through a lot of testing right now. And to us, that's harmful. To us, we would simply like to have a conversation first, because a lot of times when we address these issues, they say, well, we're doing it for you. We're doing it for you, so you will have the data, so you will have the resources to help you in your community. And we say, well, that's nice, but you could have asked us first. To quote one of my elders, he would always get upset. He would say, why would you dig up the bones of my ancestors when we're still here? That knowledge is still here, and again, it goes back to that deep-rooted misunderstanding. People don't I guess, realize a lot of times that we still pass down this knowledge. It's still here. It's still within us. And again, these are just things that we run into a lot of times. And so the protection of these seeds, the repatriation of these seeds as well, because a lot of our seeds are still held in seed banks. And these seeds have been in these seed banks for about 30 years. In our case, there's a seed company, local seed company organization in Tucson, Arizona, that has over 100 varieties of autumn seeds that have been in their freezers since the late 70s. And so our wish is that we would repatriate these seeds back to us, because the environment that these seeds were grown in 30 years ago is not the same environment that it is now. And so our knowledge tells us that we need to bring these seeds home, and we need to acclimate them to the environment that we're in now. We need to talk to them, we need to bless them, we need to cleanse them, and tell them, hey, it's time to come home and it's time to grow again. And for us to strengthen our own seed collections. We don't like to say seed banks, because that also gives like a capitalist notion. But you know, in order to prepare for the future, because I think we got a little taste of what panic can do with the COVID pandemic. People were hoarding food, you know, people were acting out of panic, and that wasn't good to see. You know, we should be acting still out of the value of sharing, rather than to hoard and to be fearful of each other. And so moving forward in our seed work, that's definitely what we want to push, is that we need to continue to share food and share resources, so that we can all be okay, you know, so that we can all eat. We all need to eat. And so all of that work is interconnected.
Thank you very much for that, Amy. I wanted to reflect for a moment on all the harms and assumptions that are baked into the phrase "we're doing this for you." Shouldn't you appreciate it? We're doing this for you. It actually is the perfect transition into our next and last question for you all, which is about solidarity and lessons for solidarity, and what kind of values and principles should be at the heart of our solidarity. I also want to uplift another thing you said, which is you could have asked us first, and what are some of the lessons that we can learn from that? So the question that we want to pose to the panel, and then we'll turn to the audience for more engagement, is what does solidarity in action look like in your work towards climate justice, and what tools and approaches can encourage successful solidarity, successful coordination? So Fatima, I'll ask you first.
Okay, thank you. For me, solidarity in action looks like now. I mean, it's working. I mean, at all levels. If I take an example at the local level or at the national level, even from the ground, I mean, work with those women who and those women organized in associations, like call them Women Farmers Association, not only in the Duarte state, also in different other states, and they work together. They share information with the help of the civil society, which is kind of solidarity. Not only civil society, also there is other actors, like as I mentioned, in our work we work closely with the extension departments in the agriculture ministry, with the research agriculture cooperation at the local level. So this at the national level, we work together to raise awareness, to build capacity of each other, but especially for the beneficiaries are the farmers or at the regional community, and also at the regional level. We work with different organizations in terms of awareness raising, in terms of advocacy, very, very strong advocacy at the regional, like African Union, with other organizations from the region. But the most important is the solidarity across, at the international level, which really make big difference. We work with the CEDAW, working with international organization to help us to participate at different international conferences, especially the CARD, and to raise the voice. And so this is really kind of solidarity which is going on, but we hope we need more, especially because the situation is getting worse at the grounds for the indigenous and local communities, and still the help is not that much. And still there is minimal resources going on, there is minimal attention for all issues concerning them. So I think we need to work more at all levels, especially with the international levels, and so we can make sure that those communities find help as soon as possible, and to prevent more negative impacts from the situation of climate change. I think this is what across border also, as I mentioned, we have some work with organization from the region, like I am involved with Feminist, which is a Pan-African organization, and other regional organization to advocate more at the regional level and at the national level.
For achieving climate change and all the crises in the world, I think in every work we do, we have to go in action. Without action, we don't achieve anything. When we talk about action, we need to have networking within and outside, nationally and internationally. We need to have networking with different organizations and with non-indigenous organizations also. And we need to have a dialogue, interaction, consultation with the government to change the policy. Though Nepal government has ratified UNPFII, CEDAW, but its meaningful implementation is lacking. So that way, we are not achieving what it is said in every article in the convention or in the declaration. So we need to have a solidarity, unity with each other, and also have also it is a very important collaboration, coordination with non-indigenous organizations also. The bitter experience in Nepal is that indigenous peoples, indigenous women are the mainstreaming or colonizers. They want to divide us among us. So they all are the political caterers of the political party, which is making our issue very suicidal for us to work. And we as indigenous activists, we are labeled as anti-national, separatists, or communal. So we are labeled as that, and when we go to the different forum also, it is very scary situation for us, and our mobile phone, our local phone, everything has been tapped. So that is creating, so we want to get rid of all these things. And also it is really necessary to advocate about CEDAW General Recommendation 39, because it's only one instrument which speaks about indigenous women and girls. CEDAW itself only talks about women. It doesn't talk about the heterogeneity of the women. So we want the government to put indigenous women and girls, indigenous in their every action, climate action program, put indigenous women and girls in the center, so that whatever allocated budget or allocated program activities that comes through us. And we have been protesting also and having consultation with the government on CEDAW in 7 provinces. We have been having dialogue with the local representative also about CEDAW with the help of MADRE and Mama Cass and AIPP and FIMI, we have been lobbying and advocacy for all these issues because we have contributed in the general recommendation in different ways. We submitted our own issues in the in 39 general recommendation, and also we were together with the IPP and they will say Indigenous Human Network also. So now we feel that we won this document because the criminalization of indigenous land and territory and criminalization of our traditional skill and knowledge, that was we raised from Nepal. So that is enshrined in General Recommendation 39. And we are really grateful to Dialys and MADRE helping us to submit to the CEDAW report and work on these different instruments related with indigenous women. So we are against patriarchy, we are against development aggression, we are against militarization, and we are against fundamentalism. So we want to be all together. Collectively we can make a difference. So we can make a better world for all of us to stay. If the colonizers, they agreed that and sometimes we have to say the word, if they agree and if they are with the collective livelihood and collective way of life of indigenous people, like 80% of biodiversity we can protect. So the earth will be able to, we can have a better world to live on. No? So, and what I want to say is, Mother Earth is not for sale. The development partner agency, colonizer, they are selling Mother Earth. Nobody has a right to sell Mother Earth. Because we indigenous people, indigenous women and girls, are the custodian and steward or guardian of Mother Earth. So thank you. We work in solidarity with all of you, and we are working with MADRE and many international organizations. So thank you so much from bottom of my heart on behalf of indigenous women, peoples and girls from Nepal. We would like to thank you so much from bottom of my heart.
La solidaridad en acción en nuestro trabajo en favor de la justicia climática, podemos señalar que siempre hemos vivido y abordado este tema de forma solidaria, haciendo declaraciones de manera individual, colectiva y también de manera conjunta con nuestras organizaciones, con nuestras comunidades, con nuestras autoridades. También hemos actuado y hemos trabajado en el marco de esa solidaridad, también haciendo las denuncias correspondientes en nuestras radios comunitarias en nuestro país, cuando ha habido situaciones que han afectado nuestras comunidades, y no solamente de las comarcas punas, sino también de los otros pueblos, ante situaciones muy puntuales que se han dado y en los últimos años también en otras comarcas, y siempre hemos estado en esa solidaridad, haciendo las denuncias correspondientes frente a las instituciones y frente al Estado Nacional. También una forma de solidarizarnos es precisamente seguir formando a las mujeres sobre este tema de la justicia climática, pero sin embargo para nosotros en una coyuntura actual es importante que precisa hoy en el marco de la resolución número 39 de la CEDAW, que es una convención que, si bien es cierto, para los que no han ratificado, un instrumento para los estados nacionales en pro de las mujeres, hay un mandato muy específico para las mujeres, que es el mandato en el marco de la resolución 39, y que esa es una herramienta, pero que para que sea efectiva, para ese entendimiento y utilizarlo como una herramienta frente a esos derechos que no solamente se dan en materia de justicia climática, sino también de otros temas vinculantes, precisamente tenemos que ser solidarias, como no solamente en la implementación, sino en el conocimiento y en la utilización de ese instrumento, no solamente ante instituciones como los ministerios de la familia, como en la salud, como en la educación intercultural, sino también torturas y de desapariciones cuando llegan a esos tribunales. Entonces, ¿cómo utilizar esa herramienta, verdad? Entonces, ahí creo que vamos a requerir no solamente el apoyo de MADRE ni de Rosa, sino de otras instituciones para que precisamente en este contexto actual podamos ser solidarias, no solamente las mujeres indígenas ni las organizaciones, sino solidarias también de cada una de ustedes, y no solamente los que están aquí, sino también los de parte de los Estados nacionales, para que utilicemos ese instrumento, esa herramienta, para hacerle frente a todos esos derechos que nos afectan como mujeres indígenas, por supuesto, que también incluye el tema de la justicia climática ante las situaciones que sabemos cada una de las particularidades que tenemos en nuestras comunidades, que sí hay amenazas, que sí hay violaciones, que sí hay, y otras veces de una manera muy sutil. Entonces, quiero hacer énfasis en esta resolución para que nos apoyen y sigamos siendo solidarias, no solamente entre mujeres indígenas, sino también con instituciones y con mujeres no indígenas. Muchas gracias de parte de la Unión Nacional de Mujeres Cunas y de la Alianza de Mujeres Indígenas Centroamérica de México, AMICAM, por permitirnos conversar un poco y reflexionar sobre temas de vital importancia para las mujeres indígenas en nuestras comunidades a nivel nacional y en el contexto internacional. Muchas gracias.
Thank you. I think the opportunity to build real and lasting and solid relationships is really important. Not just seeing one person or meeting with one organization once and that's it. The most fruitful actions that I have seen have been really long-lasting relationships, and I see them in the community. But to speak closer to how we build solidarity towards climate justice, to give a really current example is that we have been pushing to be involved and to be a part of the building of the City of Tucson Climate Action and Adaptation Plan. So our own tribe created our own adaptation plan back in 2017, so we were pretty much ahead of the game as far as the big city, next to us. And so once I heard that the city was developing their action plan, I was like, make some calls, who's putting that plan together? How can we get involved? Are they even thinking about us? We have a community really close to the city, not within the bounds, but we're neighbors, and it's not like there's an invisible wall that's going to protect them and protect us. So that was really important, and we were able to be involved in the consulting, even have our own consulting with our community to be involved in that. And it's turned out to be really well received, and came out to be a pretty good action plan on the city, and not just for Autism people, but for brown folks. Tucson has a pretty big, Mexican community, Hispanic community, and that was also important for us to just have brown voices heard and considered, especially in this when we look at the different classes of community in Tucson. Definitely, we're seeing that the richer communities that are in the foothills of Tucson use a lot more water than the communities that are on the outskirts of the city. So that was something for us to push, and it was actually approved by the city council just recently. And then also 2 days ago, the city council and the mayor unanimously voted to return 10 acres of land that's right in the middle of the city to the Bhattachan Nation, which was really, really cool when we talk about land campaigns. Definitely that is all Autism ancestral land, but when we're looking at moves like that where cities or governments are giving land back to the indigenous people, local communities, that was really important for us to celebrate, especially because those movements were started by grassroots people. Our elders, who are considered troublemakers, because they're very vocal and they say it like it is, and they push those conversations started that conversation. And so when I saw the pictures and I saw like our chairman, I was like, great, like that's cool. But I also want to make sure that people know that it wasn't that chairman that started that conversation. It was uncles and those grandpas that did. And that it's important to always acknowledge and give credit where it's due. And, most times it's coming from our local communities and our grassroots people. So that's a successful relationship building that I've seen in our own community. And again, just learning and sharing our stories. A lot of people ask, how can I help? And a lot of times we don't even know what that looks like just yet. But if you're listening and you pass along the story, pass along our information, and just take it, educate other people, that's really important too, because you're also expanding that network. And I'd also just like to quickly take the opportunity to give people the chance to show some solidarity by having people look up the Protect Oak Flat movement that's happening in Arizona with the Apache, San Carlos Apache tribe, or the Apache stronghold. This move was made by former Senator John McCain, who's deceased now, but basically sold or under a midnight rider gave this land away to an Australian mining company, Resolution Copper. And so this area, which has been used as a ceremonial site, especially for women's coming of age ceremonies, is in danger now. And we actually just went to the Court of Appeals in Pasadena, California, a couple of weeks ago. The panel of judges heard the case again, and we're just still waiting for what the decision is going to be. But basically, it's a huge mine, huge copper mine, not only threatening to desecrate this area, but also it is how it's connected to me, and why I also show solidarity to that issue is that this whole area still has, ancestral remains from a lot of like the ancient civilizations that existed there in that area in Arizona, and also threatening a lot of water. It's going to take a lot of water to produce and to build that mine. And so it's a threat to all of us, especially desert people. We need water, we need to conserve as much water as we can. So Protect Oak Flat, Apache Stronghold, look it up. There's a lot of opportunities to support that as well. Thank you.
Oh yeah. Selecting the microphone.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your comments and for sharing your perspectives with us. In a moment, I'm going to open it up for Q&A, but first I want to highlight that we actually have two other members of the MADRE and RLS delegation who are here with us in the audience, who've been listening along with the conversation, and I wanted to invite them to have the chance to share a few reflections. First, we have Jay Lung of UN in the Philippines. And then after that, we'll pass to Dialys Ehrman of the National Union of Kuna Women in Canada. So I'll pass, yes, please pass them. Just a couple of minutes each, please. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you all for your all the wonderful sharing that you all gave. I have reflected on some of the things and wanted to say that every woman in this room shares this unconditional love, passion, esteem for earth, land, water, biodiversity, and more. And I know and felt that that unconditional love, much like how it affects our relationship in ordinary life, can shape climate leadership. Ladies and gentlemen, climate change is not gender neutral. We can show women and indigenous women can show how collective momentum can disrupt the power structures and dismantle capitalism, the very root cause of patriarchy and climate change. Unless we talk about our global economic model that is driven by burning of fossil fuels and unequal distribution of wealth and resources, we cannot achieve climate change. Climate justice, because the current capitalist system we live in is driven by the unequal economic system where women and indigenous women are the most vulnerable and disadvantaged group. We need to amplify our voice and claim our space. We need system change, not climate change. Thank you.
Buenas tardes, compañeras. Mi nombre es María Luisa, soy de Panamá, de Puebla, de la Universidad de Arquitectura y a su vez también pertenece a la Alianza de Mujeres Indígenas Centroamericanas. Bueno, yo solamente quería resaltar que mi organización hace 2 años empezamos a trabajar con las jóvenes de entre 13 a 25 años. Nuestra organización es una generación de 3, somos 3 generaciones, que son las adultas, luego viene la generación de 30 a 40 años, que somos nosotras, y las jovencitas de 13 a 25 años. Y en estos momentos nosotras estamos trabajando con ellas, ya que para nosotros es muy importante fortalecer a la juventud debido a toda la situación que está pasando a nivel social. Muchas jovencitas embarazadas. El año pasado hubo un caso de una niña de 8 años, allá en la comarca que tuvo una bebé cuando a los 8 años todavía debía estar jugando con muñecas. Entonces, eso es uno de los temas con los cuales nosotras queremos trabajar con las jovencitas. Hacemos talleres sobre el tema de seguridad alimentaria, el tema de los cambios climáticos, porque es importante para nosotras y para ellas que tengan conocimiento de toda la situación que está pasando en estos momentos a nosotros como indígenas y ahora cuando nos afecta a nosotros como indígenas. Es importante que las jovencitas estén anuentes de toda la situación. Y es por ello que nosotros trabajamos con ellas también temas de discriminación, porque como ustedes saben, nosotras también somos discriminadas tanto como mujeres y tanto como indígenas, somos propiamente discriminadas. Cuando emigramos a la ciudad en busca de mejores oportunidades, muchas de las jovencitas pierden sus culturas, costumbres. Entonces nosotros tratamos de volver a rescatar esas costumbres en ellas, haciendo talleres. Nosotras hacemos también cursos sobre el idioma cuna, porque muchas de ellas no hablan cuna, y eso es una forma también de rescatar los valores de nosotras. Muchas de ellas, sus familias no les inculcan de dónde vienen, no le hablan de los antepasados, no le hablan de la espiritualidad, y nosotros, nuestra organización, tratamos de hacer esos trabajos de rescatar los valores en las jóvenes. Sobre el tema de los cambios climáticos también, muchas de ellas desconocen lo que está pasando en Cunayala, y ahorita mismo el nivel del mar ha aumentado y eso nos ha afectado bastante. En estos momentos yo trabajo en un puerto comunitario con las mujeres de la comunidad, y el tema del nivel del mar es algo que nos está afectando bastante a nosotras, ya que debido a la subida ha afectado nuestro huerto, tanto en el huerto que tenemos en la comunidad como el que tenemos en el río. Ha inundado, ha desbordado, y hemos tenido que volver a sembrar ya 2 veces en 2 ocasiones, y no hemos tenido, lastimosamente, no nos ha salido los frutos debido al tema del nivel del mar. Y todo este trabajo que realizamos nosotros lo compartimos con las jovencitas también para que ellas tengan conocimiento. En cuanto al tema de la CEDAW, también muchas de ellas ni siquiera saben qué es la CEDAW, de qué se trata. Entonces nosotros tratamos de hablarles sobre esos temas a las jovencitas de 13 a 25 años, pero eso es muy importante trabajar con las jóvenes, porque ellas van a ser el futuro, van a ser las nuevas generaciones y van a ser el futuro generacional de nosotras. Es que para mí es muy importante la participación de la juventud, y quiero agradecer también a RLS, a la organización MADRE por habernos invitado, a todas las panelistas que cada una de ellas pudieron hablar sobre su situación en cada uno de sus países y bueno, la de nosotros que quiero explicar la situación que está pasando en Panamá. Y bueno, muchas gracias porque siempre nos dan el apoyo a lo que son las organizaciones indígenas y bueno, muchas gracias y este es un pequeño aporte.
Thank you very much. And with that, we're going to switch to Q&A. We have a few moments for that. I think I see some hands up already, so there's interest. That's very good. The way we're going to do it is Laura here has the microphone. She will either run her around the room, and I think we can do that in groups of three. So maybe I see two hands on that side.
We'll go 1, 2, no.
Thank you. I'm attending this session on behalf of my wife, CPG.
I'm sorry, could you speak up a little bit? Could you speak up a little bit?
I'm attending on behalf of my wife who is not here. We have a NGO, Watchtower, and that is what it does, watching from the tower on the Indigenous Issues. We also do advocacy on climate change with the community because of how the community ladies are going further into the bush to collect firewood, collecting water. So those advocacy on with the powers and the government on perspective that our indigenous communities women are going through. And then we also have a lot of individual rights that we also look at in terms of the justice of the indigenous women and what we are facing, selective justice, as well as a lot of unlawful arrest of indigenous women. And in terms of looking at how we intend to continue with this advocacy, we have a lot of plans, but the means, particularly as a third world country, and there's a lot of good statements at the regional and international level. How does it translate or cascade to be, into local government or local implementation level, and how do we access those kind of support, particularly for advocacy groups. Everything if we are to implement the CEDAW and all the required statements, it needs to be translated into action that is, I think it's an impact as part of the global thinking.
Hello, thank you so much for the amazing inputs from this panel. I have a twofold question. So oftentimes we now see as a response to the gender crisis very highly technicized, securitized, and militarized answers by nation states. And I was wondering, how can we show the importance of indigenous solutions to climate justice on the one hand, but also peace building, so both in its intersections, to understand that peace is not only the absence of conflict, but actually addressing human security, right, with guaranteeing environmental justice, but also economic approaches. And the second one, as you mentioned several times, CEDAW Resolution 37. I was wondering,
Do you also refer to the women, peace and security agenda in your work, and particularly also women, peace and security national action plans, as they very much address also this link between gender and climate and peace and security? Not sufficient yet, but maybe that's also an avenue to connect very much this peace building and climate justice nexus. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this wonderful panel today. My name is Kanti. I'm with the International Foundation for Electoral Systems. And I know Ms. Yasso mentioned earlier in her remarks a little bit about some of the changes in political parties that are occurring. So if you have any other, all of you, have any examples of how you might be leveraging elections as a way to raise awareness of your advocacy and get your issues on the agenda for policymakers.
All right. Yeah, thank you for that. I'll repeat the question because I heard them. So we have one question on how do we move from statements, policy papers at the international level, how do we translate those down to the local level for implementation? And I don't really know who to turn to for that because I feel like any one of you could really address that. Yeah, Amy, I see your hand up. Go ahead.
To me, that question is really simple, and I know that it might differ from community to community, but what I see is that a lot of times we're waiting for these political leaders to tell us what to do or how to do it, but I don't see it that way. I see that we still have a lot of power and solutions because we see what the issues are, we see what their problems are, and I'm a strong advocate for because we have to deal intimately with those issues that we also should see the solutions. We know what the solutions are. In our language, we have a saying called and that means our culture is our strength. Our culture is our power. And that intimate relationship with the land, the people, the community, the people who play different roles, and just putting it into action. And I'm saying that with some experience because the work in agriculture, it was almost lost for our tribe. In the 1920s, we were growing about 1 million pounds of chocolate beans, and by the early 2000s, we were growing only 100 pounds. And it was an elder whose name is Clifford Pablo who said, once we started doing the youth work and the agriculture work, he came to us and he said, it's nice that you're learning how to grow food, but you should really consider growing farmers. And so that was the big push, was that we need to get these young people involved. We need to teach them how to grow food. We need to teach them everything from seed saving to growing to weeding to harvesting to learning how to cook these foods, because that's another thing that maybe a lot of people can relate to too, is that people think that young people don't like traditional foods, that they don't like the taste, or they're not going to eat it, or it's going to go to waste, or what have you. But that was where our education came in, where we tried different things. We went into our schools, we pushed to have our traditional foods in the school lunch programs, and then building school gardens, and it just grew from there. And so it makes me feel, I know I'm not old, but it makes me feel older now because I started that work in my early 20s, and I just turned 37 this week. And those young people that were a part of these programs are now in their mid-20s, and they're leading that work now. And so that proved to me that it worked, that it stuck, and that they took on that role and that responsibility, and now it's up to them to also do that too. And our roles change as we get older, and I know that it differs from community to community, but from my experience, it also took that time. It took about 10 years for us to revitalize our foods and to strengthen our food systems in our community. And it just, all we had to do was just put in the work at the time. But also, yes, training young people, because I'm also a firm believer that, our young people need to do better than us, and we need to support that and train them and continue that. So.
Thank you. And also, happy birthday.
Yeah, I just want to announce to add to the answer is I think for me I think if there is more involvement and for the local and grassroots NGOs, civil society and communities, it has to be more involvement and capacity building for them, awareness raising, and also empowering them with resources so they can really make this happen on the ground, or they can make this bridge between what is going on, or these policies, statements, are whatever it's on the international level, unless those take the lead for implementation, but they have to be empowered. I think this is will make the difference.
Y solamente quería agregar con respecto a este tema, es que precisamente hay que verlo en dos contextos, el tema de la resolución, que es muy reciente, apenas tenemos 6 meses, así como ocurrió con la Declaración de los Derechos de los Pueblos Indígenas, que tiene 22 años, con el Convenio 169 de la OIT, con tantos otros instrumentos internacionales que surgen en el contexto internacional, que al final es todo un trabajo de parte de los pueblos indígenas, donde estamos insertas las mujeres jóvenes para trabajar en nuestras comunidades y en nuestras organizaciones, para socializarlo y para entenderlo a nivel comunicativo. Y ahora tenemos otro instrumento, un mandato para los estados nacionales, por eso diciendo contexto, porque por un lado es el Estado Nacional en su implementación, los diferentes órganos que hay en cada uno de nuestros estados nacionales. Pero por otro lado, es el trabajo de cada uno de nosotros, de las organizaciones, tanto pueblos indígenas como comunitarios y de mujeres, para socializar y que conozcan este nuevo instrumento, ese nuevo mandato, como decían antes, como herramienta y cómo utilizarlo en los diferentes niveles que hay órganos del Estado y del Estado. Entonces, es un trabajo bastante arduo, por supuesto que requerimos solidaridad, como decía la hermana Fátima, y también acá, porque en esto juega un papel muy importante la juventud, como lo dijo la llanera, para nosotros, porque ese es el relevo generacional, es el que va a seguir la lucha por nuestro pueblo y hay que prepararla. Y con este nuevo instrumento también como una nueva herramienta para las mujeres.
One sister asks about peace and security. In Nepal, PEAC is like a PIECE, or Indigenous Women and Girls and Indigenous Peoples in Nepal. Because life is very insecure in Nepal. Because our forest is grabbed, as I told you, under the name of National Park, National Forest Conservation Area. Because before, the ancestral land of indigenous people are related with the land. So when their land is taken away, they are displaced. And for the ritual and for the burying their body or doing some their spiritual ritual or eating the traditional food, they go to the forest. If one animal will be killed by the indigenous people, then that life matters. But if indigenous peoples, they enter the forest to gather some of their herb or some of the vegetable or fruit, and if they are killed by the military, then it is not matter. It's not a big deal. The cases will be not taken away. So it is very hard, and many indigenous women who go to the forest, they are abused, raped by the rapes or harassed by the military, and they will be jailed or punished during that time. And during CEDAW report in 2018 also, we have addressed that in the national park Stiftung, I think they have we have visited that national park. The children, 177 children without father's name. In Nepal, the citizenship needs to be in father's name, but now with the movement, it should be mother's name, but it's a patriarchal society, still we need father's name. So during the conflict, Maoist insurgency also, the life of indigenous women were very insecure. And many of their husbands went in the Maoist army or like that, and female-headed household. So all the work burden were on women, raising children, doing household work. So it is not only insecurity, it still exists, but indigenous women, we are the survivors. We give challenge to the government and with the colonizer also to cope with our traditional knowledge and save and preserve our traditional knowledge. And another question was about the electoral system. Recently, we have a local election and provincial election. In those elections, we have a first past the post and proportional representation. And as you know that many of the indigenous peoples and indigenous women, they are with the party gatherers. And it's a suicidal for us that they don't raise our voice. Only one or two, they raise our voice. And we are not legal entity in the constitution also. Because only women, they say no, and the mainstreaming women and untouchable women, maybe you have heard in Nepal, most of the Asian countries, they have given some quota for them, but not for the indigenous women. Those indigenous women who are parliamentarian or local representative in the municipality, they are from the party side. And they are scared because there is greed for the opportunity. So if they speak of indigenous issues, then they might not get the post, or they might not get the opportunity. So we are facing all these in the representation and participation also. There is they don't like people like us who lobby and advocacy, because as I told you, we are labor. No? Wherever we go in like this workshop, when they see us, then they say that maybe she will Yasso will talk this thing, they know already. And they don't like us to participate. But with our movement and lobby and advocacy, now the government of Nepal, women, Ministry of Women, Children and Senior Citizens, now they have realized that they have to address the intersectionality of women. So now they respect, when we go, they talk with us, and they respect us, that if they don't want to talk to us also, they are scared because we will put power in the mass, no? So they get scared, and now they are respecting us to some extent. So still we are struggling so much. Thank you. I hope I gave you an answer.
Thank you, Yasso. I think this is what always happens when we have rich events like this. Is just when you feel like the engines are roaring in the conversation, it's my job to tell you that time is up. And we have to wrap up. So I want to say, first of all, thank you to our panelists. If we could give them a round of applause. Thank you to our entire MADRE and delegation. Thank you to our LS. Thank you to you all in the audience for being here. Thank you to our interpreters for helping us make the event more language accessible. Thank you to the MADRE and RLS staff who brought this event together. I have one more very important announcement, is that there are empanadas in the back of the room. So please help yourself. And if you are feeling hungry, not only for empanadas, but for more conversation, please do sign up with the sign up list at the back of the room, and you can be plugged into our work moving forward. And before we really close, I'm going to pass back to Yasso to help us close this thing. Thank you, Yasso.
I forgot to say one. I will say, okay, sorry for taking time. we don't have disaggregated data. Only male and female they don't have a disaggregated data. In the CEDAW concluding observation to local government, the CEDAW committee has suggested to have a disaggregated data. So that is also a very important for our research, for our advocacy. Thank you all, and I would like to thank our ancestors and our God connecting us all over the world, sisters and brothers, connecting to us to fight back against things. Nothing about us without us. So no one should be left behind. We all should work together in solidarity. So we want your blessing, our ancestors, all of our ancestors will bless us to fight back all the crises, all the problems, violation against indigenous girls in the world. And they will bless us with the energy and power to fight back all the negativity in the world and to make a positive world with the harmony to live together. And thank you so much for connecting us, MADRE and Ariel. Thanks so much. Our issue will be like light. It should be light around the world. Thank you to the world.